Yeah, if anything, and I should, of course, mention before we get started, I'm so excited to talk to you, that now is the time to sign up for precious metal storage with Sprott Money and get 1 month free storage. Free. How about that? Visit SPROTTmoney.com for more info. All right, so here's what I want to talk to you about. Here we are again. We went through the expiration and moving off the board of those December contracts. Always the biggest volume front month of the whole year. And just as in 2015 and 16, price has fallen dramatically. Just as in 2015 and 16, we got a Fed rate hike coming up here in a couple of weeks. I mean, we just simply tracing out the same old pattern where we're looking to buy the dip here soon and rally into next year.
Well, certainly the data on COMEX has been incredibly positive for us, okay, in the sense that I'm talking about the physical part of it here. We had nominations, I think it was for 39 tons in December, and I think there's something like 20 tons sort of in the dealer-eligible inventory. We had nominations for 39 million ounces of silver, and there's about 53 million ounces in available inventory. But you and I've sort of these exchange for physical contracts that are part of every day's trading now in the COMEX, and this is where someone says, well, I'll give you a contract where you can take delivery in London, and therefore it eliminates the open interest, and therefore it's not going to on first notice day, the guy won't say, I want that, because it goes over to London. And a guy named Harvey Organ's been following this fairly carefully, as have some others. But the amounts of metal are astounding. So, for example, yesterday, there were 20,000 contracts. That's 60 tons of metal was shifted from the COMEX to London, 60. They only nominated for the whole month to get 39, but 60 that day went to London. And I think the numbers for the most recent months, something like, 500 to 700 tons. Nobody really keeps a daily running tab on it. But it's like these are monstrous amounts of tonnage. I mean, typically we only mine 200 tons a month. So, how can you be transferring 600 or 500 tons of one over to London? I mean, it's just incredible amounts, and they not only are the December contract, they're already transferring it in the March contract, and in the case of silver, for the February contract. So the first notice days were great. The exchange for physical contracts are unbelievable. I mean, I don't pretend to fully understand where this gold's going to come from, but I got to think that there's a serious misallocation of physical gold and silver. Even silver, for example, when I think yesterday's was 5,000 contracts, well, that's 25 million ounces. That's not a little bit of silver. And there's been many days like that. So it's going to be very interesting for us to sort of study this whole play that's going on and the movement of the physical deliveries over to London, of course. And when they go to London, it's unregulated. So it's like, okay, chap, I owe you 50 tons. I'll get it to you when I can, sort of thing. Like, I don't think there are any firm, hard rules when you have to deliver. The guy just has to acknowledge that he owes it to you, and someday he'll get it to you.
Right.
Which, it's bad enough that we got to deal with open-ended paper shorting. Now we got to deal with open-ended physical delivery. So anyway, it's very interesting. I think it probably points to great things that could happen for us.
Yeah, it clearly points to increased physical demand. What's hard to gauge is how often this tool, if you will, the settlement tool, has been used in the past. I know that one of the things that you can settle for when you use an EFP is GLD shares, as if, that's a substitute for the real thing. But we're not seeing any increase in the amount of GLD tonnage at all. In fact, it's been static all through the month of November. And so it doesn't seem to be there. It also seems that they can do these EFPs in Hong Kong and places like that, but we already know there's extreme demand there. It's really an odd phenomenon, and you're right. It's something, Eric, we're going to have to start paying really close attention to see how much is being done, if it's consistent, and and then try to figure out exactly what it means. Is it really is there suddenly that much extra physical demand? It's quite compelling.
Right. And when does it settle, And does the trade actually take place? Maybe we'll never find out, right?
Right.
Because once you get over to London, nothing's very visible over there, unfortunately.
Right.
So.
Andrew McGuire has told me a couple of times that in London there's just like a painted line on the vault floor. And they just forklift pallets of gold back and forth across the line being what demarks unallocated and allocated.
Yeah. I've never really believed there could be as much trading as they say happens over there. I mean, they theoretically trading hundreds of millions of ounces, something like that a day. And it's just like, who possibly could need to trade that amount of gold and silver in a day? It just seems incredible to me. So,
well, it is a rather interesting time to be watching all of this. As we move into the next year, we got to get through this month first. We've got the employment report next Friday, and then we've got this FOMC meeting in 2 weeks. But as we move into next year, there's certainly going to be two big stories, geopolitical and political, that are going to be influencing prices. Is that something you're going to be watching as well?
Sure. Well, I think the most devastating news of the week, by the way, which has nothing to do in a way with markets, is the fact that the North Koreans have a rocket that can get to Washington, okay? Like, I just couldn't believe how quickly their ability to deliver a nuclear war that far has changed. They sent a rocket up 4,500 kilometers up vertical. So obviously they've developed a new Stage 2 rocket that has tremendous power, and it's a very, very scary thought. And, it creates a whole sense of worry here because you got a bit of a wild man at either end, I think, quite frankly. So who knows what's going to happen? But it's a very sobering thing to think about while we have all this ebullient things going on in the stock market and Bitcoin and all these crazy things happening in front. Huge rallies in the stock market every day, seemingly because we're going to get a tax bill passed, which you wouldn't have thought. I mean, how long can you play this, right?
Right.
This tax bill thing's been around for about, 2 months almost, but every time we talk about it, the market go up. And as you, I think, mentioned just earlier, every time that the people say there's going to be a tax cut passed or tax bill passed, they knock gold. I never even noticed that relationship because they probably would never be looking for it. But anyway,
well,
I guess they'll try to get a tax bill passed.
Yeah, maybe they can drag that out for another couple of years and just run out
right.
of
Yeah. That'll do it.
Say, you mentioned Bitcoin. It's been a wild week for Bitcoin. It seemed like over the American Thanksgiving holiday, everybody that knew something about it told somebody, and Coinbase opened 100,000 new accounts, and up it went. That's nice for teaching a whole new generation people about money and what really is money. But at the same time, that whole new generation is just about to get a dose of some education about the banks too, because we just got notice this morning that the SEC has approved Bitcoin futures. What do you suppose that might do to the market?
Well, I bet you most Bitcoin people don't know how bad that news is, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just horrible news because you and I live with this COMEX thing, okay? And then what they can do to gold and other commodities for that matter. And one of the great things why Bitcoin can rally as much as it did, and the rally is ridiculous in the scheme of things. It's just ridiculous that something rallied by that percentage and hold its own. But one of the reasons it can do that is it's essentially a closed loop. I mean, yes, there's a little bit of thing happening every day. It's a closed loop. So everybody who wants to own a piece of this has to go into that closed loop and try to buy it. And the incremental buying drives the price up. And one of the things that's different about Bitcoin going up or versus, let's say, a stock. If the stock was up against some ridiculous value, you know what? Management is willing to sell some stock to you. They'll do an issue and increase the size of the float. The two things that could one's already happening, and that is all these other coins, of course, detract from people buying Bitcoin. So that's a bit of has a weakening impact. But I'll tell you, these contracts trading on the commodity exchange, that's going to make the supply side unlimited. And the people who are probably going to offer up the unlimited supply might happen to be commercial bankers who I'm sure hate Bitcoin because it takes money out of their bank. And between them and the powers that be, the governments and central banks, who all are looking askance at this thing and wondering what is really going on, I think there's going to be a huge sentiment on the part of the powers that be that we want this price down. We don't want everybody piling into Bitcoin here. So, and of course, that's what you can do on CME. You got unlimited amounts of money. I mean, as you know, in gold, they'll sell $4 billion worth of gold in a minute. Well, you know what? If some guy comes along wants to sell $4 billion of Bitcoin in a minute, to knock the price down. So
right.
I think you have to look at it very cautiously here with this thing beginning to trade. I think it's on December 10th on the COMEX. It'll be very interesting for us to watch and see exactly what happens.
Eric, lastly, just one quick question. The folks at Sprott Money have put a hashtag out on Twitter that is just simply Ask Eric Sprott, no spaces, hashtag Ask Eric Sprott, and asking really anybody on Twitter if they have anything they'd like to ask you directly. I had one question this week. We'll try to do at least one every week. And this one's just about silver in general. You know, it's been a tough year. All the other base metals, industrial metals have all had great years, it seems. But silver's only up 2% year to date. Of course, you and I probably have some thoughts as to why. But nonetheless, this person on Twitter wanted just to know what you think and what are your thoughts for the supply-demand situation and price for silver in 2018.
Right. Well, I do find it very ironic that silver is about the only thing that hasn't, right? I mean, everything, whether it's nickel or zinc, or copper, or lead, I mean, everything. Cobalt, lithium, and some of them with tremendous moves. I mean, it's obvious that there has been and continues to be a huge short position held by the commercial banks in silver, and they are not wanting it to rise here, and they're trying to find a way to cover their shorts, and the trading hasn't really provided them that opportunity. If I had to answer that based on, well, what's going to happen on the COMEX, well, I have a pretty good idea what's typically should happen on the COMEX. Price of silver under pressure. That's why we always talk about the physical demand for things, because it's only the physical that throws a spanner in the works for the banks, because sometimes the physical blows out, and the demand is obvious, and the price goes up. And that's why we are talking about these exchange for physical contracts that are being laid off in London here for huge sizes of both gold and silver. And it's suggesting to us that things are getting very tight here. And with these prices, we're not going to see any increases in production. In fact, we'll see decreases in production, so therefore supply. I happen to be a believer that all this money that's being made in Bitcoin, when people sell it, I think they're going to buy precious metals, by the way, because theoretically they hate fiat currencies and governments and banks, and that might be a very logical thing to do to diversify. So I'm always been upbeat about the supply-demand situation. It's just a question of defeating the crooks at the CME, the physical to carry the day.
Yep, I hear you. Hey, and before we go, just to remind everybody, Sprott Money now carries Scottsdale Mint products in the USA. Everybody can order those on our U.S. site today as a great gift item. Eric, you're a great gift item to all of us. Thank you for all you do, and thank you for your insights each and every week as we visit here on Friday. But for now, we'll give you the rest of the day off.
Okay, man. I always look forward to it, and it's exciting what's going on. It would be a little more interesting if actually analysis meant something, right?
Right.
Like, there doesn't seem to be a lot of reason for anything anymore, but at least we can go back to basics, and someday, of course, the basics will always win out. So let's hang in there together and hope